Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to In the Bag.
Welcome to In the Bag, the game that is made up and the points don't matter.
Today we've got four amazing. Brad, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. Good. Hey, well, I'm I don't know, just good. I'm in a boo. If anyone saw my very, very, very frustrating. I don't even want to call it performance. It wasn't even a performance on the putting league this week. It was sad. I scored 13 whole points. I threw the remaining discs. I took a 0 on the 35 station. Threw my discs on the ground. It was a bad day. But hey,
you get drops.
Get drops. It's fine. I thought the straddle putt was going to be the win, but it was not. It was not good.
Is it? What foot is your boot on? Left or right?
My right foot.
Okay, so the lead foot on the putt.
Yeah.
I think the straddle could be fine. I'm sure the hard part on the straddle is that like your feet are probably different heights.
Yeah,
I would guess with the boot.
That's what I was doing. I was pulling. I couldn't really, because I noticed even on my straddle putt, I'm still like relying on my right foot a lot to like generate the pop. And I was trying to do it with my left foot, but yeah, you're right. Like it wasn't quite the same height. So it was like, I don't know. I was pulling stuff to the left and then I would adjust and I'd pull it to the right. I just, it's fine. It's only for a couple weeks, but it was, it made me really appreciate my putt, I guess. And made me realize I'm usually pretty confident with straddle putt. Like I usually feel like if I have to go to the straddle putt, if I'm like in trouble or have to get around something, I feel pretty confident and I felt good going into it, but is what it is. Adversity, right? Overcome adversity.
Baby. Yeah. I had a in-person lesson yesterday, and what was really fun is it's one of my younger students, and she's got Pro Tour aspirations, and we were working on some distance gains for her as well as some putting because she played an A tier and came in third, and she was like, "Oh man, my putting just shook me this weekend," and I was like, "Oh, okay, let's talk about it." And there was like 3 things on her putt that we instantly were able to fix and get her some confidence back. Yeah. And it just reminded me, like, shameless plug here, but guys, we do have coaching available at foundationdisc.com because there's times, especially on putting, like I'll have to go back and watch the stream, Brad, and try to like maybe throw some tips your way if you want them just for like how to survive the next few weeks. Because the way I describe like how I can watch putting is like someone took a black and white portrait and then they just drew like red Sharpie all over certain parts. And you're like, oh, that clearly doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Something about putting in my brain is just like, I see it and I go, oh, if they would just cut that out, like everything would flow smooth. So yeah, always a fascinating exercise.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what you say. But I think it's weird that and this is what my body does. I don't know if this is like a common thing, but if I'm in fear that I can't generate enough like spin or pop, I release on a ton of Hyzer. And I think it's like something mechanical, like I'm trying to use like my shoulder more or something, or my elbow maybe, and that's what I'm kind of using. That motion's coming out like a lot of Hyzer. But I mean, if you saw it on the putts I did make when I like released flat and had some spin, I need more spin when I'm straddle putting, I think, and I was struggling to spin yesterday. So
yeah. My guess would be that we default to more of a, like when we're looking for power, we default to more of a throw.
Yeah, that's
and
what it was.
That's when the wrist breaks and comes down. And so you're used to that throwing motion the rest of the time. And so that's what creates the Hyzer, but you're not giving it, like you said, the pop in order to get that Hyzer to, like, because when I bring a putter down, I bring it down on a significant amount of Hyzer. I'm able to pop it back up. And that's what I tell people is like, if you do one of the drills that I give people, that's all I want you to focus on. And when your putt's off that day, if you just focus on getting the putter flat, it's crazy how fast it auto corrects itself, turning around. But we have a lot of great questions, Brad, and I want to go ahead and dive in to the questions because we had one that we pushed back last week. And Jeff, we're starting with you, man, because he's talking about a brand that is, not as sought after. So, and that is Westside. Started playing 2 years ago. Had to pick up a manufacturer to start buying discs from. Love me some Matty O, and he just signed with Westside. So I figured, why not start there? My question is, why is Westside not really talked about on any content that I consume? But my experience in the wild is that Westside's everywhere. So many people throw Westside and love it, but no one talks about it on content. Where do you guys fall on this? I think if you like grippy plastic, VIP stands up to anything on the market. Slept on molds are the king, the Northman, the Longbowman, the Pine, the Bard. Love to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
So,
all right. May
when
I
you talk grippy plastic, my understanding, Brad, is that VIP is the exact same plastic as Lucid, which is the exact same plastic as Opto. Right? Like there's not actually a difference between those plastics.
That's also my understanding. I know people debate that, but I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same.
Okay.
I think the comment he said, a lot of people throw Westside but don't talk about it. I mean, I feel like that's maybe his area specific. I don't see a lot of people throw Westside personally. Is that or do you see a lot of people throw Westside?
I travel a lot for disc golf.
True,
so like I see disc golf in a lot of areas. So I see it more often than not, but I know that where I'm at is we have a trilogy heavy town because two of the people that run tournaments either in Huntsville, which is an hour and a half north of me, or Birmingham, Ben is like our biggest TD in town.
Shout out
he
Ben.
was on Team Dynamic. And then Larry is on Team Westside. So a lot of the amateur player packs end up with trilogy options. So people just happen, like I live in a very trilogy centric area. That's probably why I ended up on Felons, is because we could find them everywhere.
I don't know. I know a common thing with Westside is like their flight numbers aren't exactly accurate. I think that's like maybe some of the hesitation people have around Westside. I don't know. I think of the trilogy brands, Westside in my mind is probably like on the tier 1, 2, 3. They're probably third, and not for any particular reason necessarily. I think just less people throw them on average. I know sales wise for us in the warehouse, definitely lower on the sales side from Westside. I think the Underworld is a very, very good disc, like a very good disc, and it just doesn't get talked about a lot. I think the Bear is a good disc. I think the Swan is a good disc. Harp is Westside too, right?
Harp is Westside.
Obviously, Harp is a good disc. I mean, I think when you get in the drivers, that's when it maybe gets a little sketchy for me, and I don't know why. I mean, Sword is also a very good disc as well. There are a lot of good discs. I think I don't know. So I guess maybe the more I talk about it, I don't know exactly why Westside's not talked about more. I don't know if it's just more of a I don't know if it's just like, okay, well, instead of throwing the Underworld, I'm going to throw like, I don't know, a Diamond or something like that. I don't know if it's just like people prefer one or the other, or I don't know. You don't hear on my end, you don't hear a lot of like advertising or marketing for Westside. I mean, you will on Dynamic. I feel like Dynamic is like the big one of the trilogy that you hear and see everywhere, but you don't really hear or see a lot of Westside. I mean, maybe that's a hot take. I think the last quote unquote Westside person other than Matty O that I really recall is Nico LaCastro. And I mean, he's a pretty polarizing figure also in my opinion, for the worse. So I don't know if there's some, I don't know, bad connotation there. I'm not really sure. That's kind of where I'm at. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, so I think you nailed a lot of the major points. I just want to kind of expand upon them just a little bit. The first is flight numbers. I think that they have really good flight numbers, and at Trilogy, we often can look at most Trilogy flight numbers, especially when you get to fairways and up, and just sort of take a speed and knock one off of it.
Yeah.
For lots of the molds, not all of them, but for lots of the molds, like a Felon, for instance, is still going to be that overstable 9 speed that everyone's looking for. But when you get to distance drivers, we spend so much time, especially on the coaching side, encouraging people, don't go for the big fast disc. Like you don't, I hear this phrase over and over again, and Brad, you probably heard it as well. I've got no business throwing a blank speed.
I say it all the time.
So like it's so common. Well, let's just walk down the distance driver lineup of Westside. World 14 speed, Warhorse 13, Sword 12, Sorcerer 13, Queen 14, Prince 13, King 14, Giant 14, Destiny 14, Catapult 14. Like
The Tide
they
they
don't
just
have
released is like the 12
they
12
have
or 13.
Yeah, I think the Tide is a 12, which will be the second 12 speed that they have, and then they have a Boatman at 11.
That's right.
Everything else is a 13 or 14 speed. But if we use the principle that we know, we can drop all of those. So they actually have a lot of 12 speeds and things like that. Like I've thrown the Queen, which is a 14 speed. No shot, dude. No shot. That thing is so fun to throw. Fantastic. I think lots of people, if you're looking for, like, if you find thrashers to be inconsistent because you're like, I have this honeymoon relationship with the thrasher, like it either burns over or it stays on Hyzer the whole time, a Queen is a great alternative to that because it is consistently flippy enough. So, like, that's a fantastic disc. The Sorcerer, my brother Jake, the Sorcerer was the first disc when we all started playing that he could like consistently throw far. The fairway drivers, I think the names are really cool. The art is really cool on Westside. But yeah, I think the flight numbers alone push people off because they're just like a little out there. But the other two major factors, I think, why people don't talk about Westside. One, marketing. Brad mentioned it. They are the only like Dynamic exists as a company and manufactures as a company. Latitude exists as a company and manufactures, right? Like these two companies have processes built inside of them.
Right.
Westside is always getting the leftover time of whatever's left between those companies because early on they had to sell. And so Westside, from how it was explained to me way back in the day, is that it's partially owned by, it's half of it's owned by Latitude, half of it's owned by Dynamic. Well, you're always going to get second best. Like you're always second fiddle to everything. You're going to take care of your thing first and then hit it after, like hit them afterwards. So yeah, I think that they have a lot of great molds. I rarely do I throw a Westside mold that I'm like, wow, that was bad. Like the Hatchet, so good.
Oh,
the
Hatchet,
Tersis, the Tersis is money.
Yeah.
People talk about the EMAC Truth and they want EMAC Truths that have like a little hookup to them, but they don't want to jump up to like a Verdict or something overstable like that. The Gatekeeper is that disc. Like it just is. The hard part is because it's not advertised though, is also it's not manufactured. So it's really, really tough. Like if I walk into a store and they have a VIP Gatekeeper, I'm like, where are we, guys? Like, how do you have this disc still? So yeah, I just think it's an availability thing. Like, when's the last time you walked into a store that had Fortresses and Longbowmans sitting on the like shelf for you to buy?
Yeah.
That's tough. But like the Stag is phenomenal.
Awesome.
Like you just walk down this list and there's like a lot of great discs that people talk about that you've never seen or thrown because they're just not made available. So I don't think it's happening, Jeff, because people are maliciously like, I hate Westside.
Yeah.
I think that from the top down, as bad as it sounds, Westside shoots themselves in the foot.
Yep.
Before the creators even get a hold of it. Like I know Jay Milley got hired by Westside to try to be advertising for them because they knew, but it was like a Hail Mary attempt of like, hey, we don't really have a lot of like direction or help to give you. So would you mind just creating some stuff for us?
Yeah.
And it fizzled out because like he felt like he was on an island. So
yeah,
fascinating. But no, all that to say, Westside, love it. I think more people should check out Westside. I like looking at that list truly of discs. Yeah. I have so much Westside downstairs. Underworlds. I have a ton of Underworlds. The first ever Birdie Fam takes over Birmingham. Brad, Underworlds were our tournament stamp.
Yep. Great disc.
Before we moved on. So, all right. Hopefully that helps and gives you some excitement that Jeff, we're team Westside here. We love it. I'm excited to try the Tide. But it's just, like I said, they're not helping themselves, sadly. Yeah. Because other than the Matty O, like it's Haiti Lane, I think. That's basically it. for like touring pros even.
Is Sai Ananda, she on Westside?
She is, but she's not really even playing this year. Like,
That's right.
So, like, what are we doing?
If anyone here is listening from Westside Discs, you also need a revamp. You need a rebrand. Reevaluate your flight numbers. And
I'm not even going to say they need to rebrand because I like the vibe and the names and the inspiration. All of it is actually really cool because if they are
update the artwork is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
update the artwork.
Yeah, if they're Finnish, I think is where they're based out of. A lot of the stuff is based on like Finnish lore.
Yeah,
and
which is cool. Yeah, I don't mind the naming or nomenclature. I'm more talking about like Innova's a good example. They finally redid their like just general like stock look of their discs and their artwork.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that like really elevated them. And I think that's going to be
Westside looks old.
Yeah, they just look. No one like looks at a Westside disc and is like, "Oh man, I really want to throw that. That's cool." Like I mean, so
unless it's on like a super pretty plastic or something, and then it's like, well, you could have some doo doo on there, and people would still want to throw it because the plastic's that pretty. So. All right. Matthew asks, what do you do on holes that you just don't see a line? I'm prepping for a tournament and there are multiple holes that I just don't see a repeatable line on. Basically just a wall of trees. So I've got thoughts here, Brad, but I just went for a little bit there. You've stepped up to holes, I'm sure, before that you're like, there's just nothing here. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
How do you attack a hole like that?
Can I also adjust or add to the question? Like, what do you do on holes you don't see the line? And also, same kind of thing. What do you do on holes that you can't throw the line?
Great question.
Because I would say those are kind of the same thing, right? I mean, in a way. I feel that way, like at Old New London, I felt that way on several holes. I'm like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I just can't throw that line, or I can't consistently throw that line. I'm thinking
you can't pull out the 400-foot flip up straight shot that doesn't fade?
Yeah, right.
You don't have that?
No, I don't have that one. I don't have that one. So,
same.
Yeah, or like flips up and turns and like late fade. Yeah. So yeah, there's or even like hole 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hole 4 at Old New London. Just a big forehand uphill is really kind of the play, and I just don't have that forehand. So I think whether you don't see the line or you don't have the shot for the intended line. I think you have to really look at the hole and decide how you're going to play it, and just accept that, well, I don't have a 400-foot flip up forehand, so I'm going to take a bogey here and just plan accordingly. And I think it's all about placement. It's about playing golf, actually. So just like placing your shot to give yourself the next best shot or next best look. So in this wall of trees scenario, I don't know if it's a wall of trees like you have to throw over, or a wall of trees you have to just like spray and pray and hope you go through them. But I would just, I would walk that hole without playing it, or while you're doing a practice round or whatever. And okay, if it's a wall of trees you have to throw through and just hope you make it through, I would say, okay, throw a couple different shots, look at and try to place them differently, and like look and see what gives you your highest probability like success on the next shot. So I guess thinking about the second shot is kind of what you have to do. If you don't see the line or you can't do the line, you have to throw shot 1 with the intention of shot 2, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think that is spot on. So a couple things that I would like, tips I would give to kind of help Brad's idea flourish would be walk the hole backwards. Like when you're, especially because you said you're prepping for a tournament, there's multiple holes. So throw some big shots, see what happens, but then go to the basket and then turn around and look back at the hole. And oftentimes you'll see the fairway that they want you to hit more clearly from there, because you're like, oh, okay, awesome. This looks like a big wall of trees that I can't get around, but I'm actually seeing that it's an Hyzer backhand, like, because just to the, like, from the basket to the left of those trees is some wide open space that if I can just get a turnover around them, it actually has so much open space on the other side of these trees. And you can decide, hey, do I have that shot? Awesome. Or like Brad said, what happens when you don't have that shot? I don't have a 300-foot sharp Hyzer flex. So do you have a 100-foot chip forehand to just get that first part of the shot around. And then now you have a 200-foot hyzer that is the back half of the flex. So the other thing is this like, especially if you're planning on playing a tournament, if you're not playing MPO on the tour, I'm not even going to say MPO in general, MPO on the tour where you basically have to birdie every hole, it feels like, then pars are completely acceptable. If you're playing any amateur division, you should be allowed to par a few holes on every single course, at least. If you're playing MA4 or MA3, you can par at least half the holes usually if you're not playing a pitch and putt. But these kind of holes don't usually exist on things that aren't pitch and putts. And so, if there are a pitch and putt, normally if there's like not a line, it's because the hole's so short that you can probably save it regardless. So, I would just break it into pieces, like Brad said. And I think to find your pieces, look at working backwards and accept that par is a completely acceptable score. You're not moving backwards, even though you're not necessarily moving forwards. And by breaking it down, instead of having to blast through this non-line section of the hole, you've got a better chance of throwing it in with your 200-foot open hyzer on the sand hyzer hole that I was talking about than you do like trying to do something else. Another sneaky option, practice your forehand rollers. And that sounds so silly, but like there's a lot of holes that if you've got a good forehand roller, you can straight up just break them because everyone's paying attention to the space up in the sky. And you can just put a forehand roller down on the ground and get through. And if it's like a wall of trees and I try to throw a backhand through it or a forehand through it, it's high. If I hit it hard, it's going to kick far. Right. A forehand roller that hits a tree basically goes nowhere. So I can at least get to the line and then I have a look through that like wall of trees that doesn't seem to have a line. So don't go extreme and like only throw forehand rollers, but try forehand rollers. Promise. You'll end up with some funny scores. Our next question might be how to describe this question. Might be one of the more interesting questions we received in phase 2. Yeah, that's probably
so far.
No name attached to it. Should Simon Line prototype discs be sold at retail for $80 to $100 with MVP stating, like with the company MVP stating that 75% of that huge price goes directly to Simon because he makes nothing on the secondhand market, only the scalpers who gouge the Simon faithful. That's my hot take. So it sounds, my initial read is that unnamed person missed out on a prototype drop and didn't want to pay scalpers for the disc, created this passion.
Right.
That would be my guess.
Yeah. And I think that
Brad, you have thoughts?
Yeah. I think that also anonymous here, it seems like if I'm trying to see the silver lining, also seems like they care about Simon and want to support him. So maybe this is a different way to do that. But here's my thought. They're only these secondhand market people that are, selling things for $100. I mean, it's the value, right? And you don't have to pay them for it. Like if no one buys it, there's no demand and the price goes down. That's how that works. So just simple supply and demand. Now, the only time I have a problem with people buying a drop and then like doing it on the secondhand market is like if we had, so the prototype time lapse, right? When we got those, we were only allowed, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, we're only allowed some as a retailer. So just because of the situation, and there's no fair way for us to like, oh, we're going to put these up and that one person just wouldn't buy them all immediately or bots or whatever. We just didn't even sell them and we put them in like mystery boxes, right? I think it's only...
I remember that because it was like 20 or 30 a retailer. Like this was like, it was a shocking drop.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'm allowed to say how many we got, but it was not enough to justify selling them. But like, I don't love it when someone like goes around to all these different things and buys up everything, or goes to your local shop, especially local shop. Online, everyone has access. Local shop gets like 10 of them, right? you go in, you buy all 10, and then you go immediately and post them online. And people do this at like drop set, disc golf tournaments and stuff too. Again, part of me is okay with it. It's capitalism, and I love capitalism, but I think you just have to like judgment call. I think that's just where I kind of maybe have a little bit of problem with it. But at the end of the day, if people don't buy them, there's no reason to do it. And like that is the value that is being placed on them if people buy them at $100. Now, beyond that, like theoretical concept, going back to should MVP charge $80 to $100 a prototype disc and say, oh, 75% of that is going to Simon? No. And number one, they're going to limit the market, and by doing the prototype thing is a market. It's a driver for stock sales. It's a marketing play. That's how they do it. That's how they gauge value. And the fact that they're going for that much on the secondhand market is driving value to the stock release. A manufacturer like MVP, they want volume. It's not up to the customer. It's not up to the customer to try to pay for Simon's, like signing bonus or his contract on like one run or prototype run. And what they're trying to do is a long play. They want longevity from a player, and they want to be like, oh, this time-lapse drop was very hype and we had a lot of sales in the stock run and people love it. So let's do another one, insert new prototype or multiple versions of the same prototype, which they're doing right now. That's all like, and they're doing small drops here and there. It's just building interest and building demand for a disc, and then they release the stock one. I think MVP out of everybody, in my opinion, does it the best, if I'm being honest. They have they ride a really good line between like driving excitement and demand without making it feel like the desert. I mean, there's ways you can get them, and there are secondhand, but at some point they're going to drop it and it's going to be available. Like right now, the Tempo, for example, I have it sitting here for the drop. They have a special edition one that is fun and exciting that anyone can get, and that's like a collector piece. And they have the stock one, and then they released it in other points leading up to it, and prototyping different ways depending on what the disc was. So no, I do not think they should do that. I think that would hurt. That would hurt Simon and hurt the demand for Simon's discs if they just started charging a ton for the prototypes. Because it's not getting it in the hands of people that want it quickly. It's also not driving excitement for people to continue to get them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think you nailed so many points there, Brad. My two inputs are, one, we've seen when a manufacturer tried to be the ones to control that price demand, and the disc didn't sell. And I'm not trying to say that Ricky and Simon are on the same level, but people lost their minds when the generals were being sold for what, $35.99 or like $34.99 or $33.99 or something.
I think we sold for maybe $32.99, something like that.
Yeah. So $33, and people were like, I'm paying $33 for a stock disc, which is what we basically are asking, is like the Simon line prototypes are trying to become stock discs. So we're asking for that. People are losing their minds over that price. If you are a player whose discs create that kind of traffic on the secondhand market, the manufacturers aren't blind to what the secondhand market is doing. Like, they're not just going like, wait a minute, like the marketing guy's not hearing, you're telling me a Simon disc sold for $150 and like, well, we should get some of that. Like, that's not their concern. They are thinking, awesome, exactly what Brad's saying. If one is selling for that many, if we have the right price, we can sell 100 of them, because there are so many people that can't afford to buy the $150 one, but they can buy a $20 disc.
They can buy two.
They can buy a
$20.
$25. Yeah, like that's. So you just open up a world. And honestly, Brad, it takes me to Smartphone Inc., the board game.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah. Great
in
game.
Smartphone
Great
Inc.,
game.
this board game, the way the game works is that you all start at like this current sales level, and then you adjust your board every round. For the people listening, I feel like I'm on the wrong podcast, but you adjust your board to get to a certain selling point.
Right.
And when you go and at the end of the round, you sell however many cell phones you generated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go super low, you get to take spots on the market first because people are more likely to buy your phones because they're cheaper.
Right.
But there comes a point where if you go high enough, it's okay somewhat because you have to sell so many more discs on the low end to match the high end. And I realize I could sound like I'm like counter arguing myself here, but I don't think I am, because let's say that MVP decides to go for that $100 mark and they're like, Simon gets 75% of this. So Simon's making $75 off of every disc, which I would be willing to bet a large sum of money that Simon does get paid per disc, but he's also getting, unlike most pros who their biggest contract benefit is paid per disc, that's not Simon's contract. Can almost guarantee it. They're not, most of Simon's money is not coming from per disc. But could be wrong there. I don't know Simon well enough to know his contract, so that's not fact. Mm-hmm. Don't quote us on that, but that would be my guess. Let's say Simon's on what I do know to be the high end of discs, like making money per disc, and we'll say Simon's making $8 a disc.
Right.
That feels a lot.
Yeah, it does.
So he's making $8 a disc. So one disc sold at $100 and he gets 75% of it. He's making what? $75. Mm-hmm. That's why we do the math.
Yep.
So if he's making $8 off of a disc and they're selling at 22, you got to think, guys, he would have to sell 10. It's 9.3 discs. So he'd have to sell 10 discs to in order to match that. One disc does cover 10 discs, but also how many of you listening are going to go buy $100 disc?
Yeah. You have to sell 5 times as many discs, but I would argue that 10 times less people would buy $100 disc. Also, this is a sport. This is an activity. You don't want people to buy $100 disc and put it on a shelf. You want 5 people to buy a $20 disc and throw it and use it, and then and each of them buy another one once that one's beat up or they lose it. Like, that's what you want. And you also, if you're Simon and MVP, you want Simon's name and MVP's name in the hands of more people. That is what you want. That's market, and that's what you want to do. So yeah.
Some dude on your card crushes a drive and you're like, whoa, what was that, dude? And they're like, oh, it's a Simon Line prototype time lapse. And you're like, oh, well, I'll never be able to afford one of those.
Yeah. I'll just find a Domi Destroyer, I guess.
And I go to the cheap option then. Whereas if I'm like, oh, snap. Okay, let me go see if I can get one.
I'm going to go to foundationdisc.com right now. And actually, I have their app downloaded and just buy it right now. And I can try it with Foundation Care and try it risk-free for 30 days. So
it's that easy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I like the heart anonymous question guy, girl, person of let's support our pros, and I think that's true.
But the best thing you could do is just buy their tour discs, throw them, like them, and tell other people about them. So 10x people get them in their hand.
Yeah. We want more people to have it, and that's the biggest reason that you see so many smaller market pros trying to push their discs out as much as possible. It's because they make money off of those sales and things like that. But also, if more of their discs are being purchased, it's not just they made the money back. It tells the company, hey,
they're valuable.
This person moves discs. Chris, you mentioned in the video the idea of throwing a disc with height, and you weren't sure why people don't talk about it enough. I've asked a couple different channels about this exact thing and haven't gotten an exact answer aside from you just do it. But how do you give a disc the height needed while also maintaining a nose down angle? I feel like anything I try to give height to just goes nose up and crashes back down. So I'll give a quick, this is a form thing. So this is one that if you're not watching on the YouTube video, come check out the YouTube video at the 34-minute mark.
And subscribe. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. So
thanks. Yeah.
We are going to do a giveaway at 2,000, by the way.
Let's go. So when you're throwing, most often people who throw nose up, it's because your thumb is getting involved on the throw. Like you're pushing in to try to drive power to like slam the disc and your thumb is pushing it up. So if I'm trying to throw up and I have my thumb, when I move, nose angle is in relativity to the path that you're throwing the disc. So if I am throwing nose up, throwing high, if you just do that, like put the disc in a nose up position while you're sitting here listening to this and just move it high, you can see how goofy that looks and how you're pushing against wind and air. No world would you throw a disc like that and think this is going to go far.
Right.
Like it wouldn't. But if I simply just go to throw nose up, like if I go to throw high and I just think about keeping the nose down, it's actually so much easier to finish high with the disc nose down, especially in relation to the line that I'm pulling it on of low to high. Like it's so I think for folks, we're like the reason you're throwing nose down or nose up and negative launch angle is because your thumb is popping into the shot as you twist in. So it's pushing it down to the ground, causing that air bounce. If you just think about getting to that pointed sort of wrist, and I'm not even saying turn the key because I think that works, but like just do that exercise. Like if you sit here with a disc center chest and you just try to throw it high, nose up, you're going to see that this feels air pushy. Like it feels like I am just working against the wind with a sail. So that's my biggest tip. Chris, if that doesn't help, let me know and I'll do a video on it on my channel. I've done a video on my channel, talking about throwing to like a marker, and all I care about is launch angle. All I care about is launch angle and just seeing, because I think people don't trust that, like, well, what if I just try it? What if I just try it? Even if you can't conceptualize it, what if I just try it? And I have seen it work for a majority of people over and over again, of just trying to throw at a certain height. And especially if you have tech disc or you have a local shop that has tech disc, focusing on that one metric, because if you air bounce, it looks like you're throwing high. Mm-hmm. So video yourself and see if that works as well. Because you could be air bouncing aggressively low, but you're air bouncing so hard that it is, shoop. Oh yeah, of course I threw high. Video is important. Brad, you got any thoughts on that, or you want to move on to the next one?
Other than you just fixed a problem I didn't know that I had, but I think you just fixed my form there for a second. I didn't realize that you're just talking about like the pointed wrists. I know you've set up, I've never thought about it or visualized it, but I'm like, that's definitely my problem, because I have a relaxed wrist. I don't have it turned when I'm throwing. I have it more at an angle, and of course I'm pushing my thumb up, and it all makes sense. Yeah. I have no tips because I am in a weird position with this myself. So I'll just take the tip and we can move on to the next one.
I love it. Next one also comes from an anonymous person.
Come on, guys. Put your name in.
Yeah, it's right there, guys. Come on. How important is it to have slow fairways in the bag for all slots? I have a hex and then the crave in the 6 to 7 speed slot, and then I jump straight to 9 speeds. So far, the 7 speeds I throw feel like inconsistent 9 speeds. But every time I see a new 7 speed like the Athena or the Sagara, I think about giving them a try, even though I don't know where it would slot into my bag. This is coming from an MA1, MA2 player who's just shy 400 feet of distance.
I mean, number one, crave is a 7 speed. I don't care what anybody says. It's a fairway. So
for sure.
I know it says 6.5. It's a 7 speed, just for whatever it's worth. I think if I had to guess, Robbie, just on the 130 plus bags we've looked at and people we've talked to on just like bag building, it seems like this is a person that like wants to throw their hardest or like throw max power, one of those type of people. They don't like to back off power, and that's probably why the 9 speeds feel more consistent, and then the 7 speeds are probably like a little more touchy for you, and that's why they feel inconsistent. Do you feel like that's accurate?
I definitely could see that. I think that, yeah, for sure. I think if you like to jam on some fast discs, and if you're MA1, MA2, and you're throwing 400 feet,
You like to hit it
driving
hard.
certainly seems like it is a focus point.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but as far as it being important to have slow fairways, I don't. And this is how I think about it, and this maybe is not accurate, but I think just having fairway, like between 7 and 9 speed, those are my fairways. I don't care if they're 7 or 9, like as long as they do what I want them to do and they feel good in my hand. I mean, maybe that's a bad, like, but I don't throw far enough to like see a huge difference in like a 7 and 9 speed for me. Like I'm not like, oh, I throw my 7 speeds 350 and I throw my 9 speeds 420 and I throw my distance drivers 480, you know what I mean? Or my 10 or 11. Yeah. Like I don't see that. And I mean, as long as you have like the fairways to use, I would say just like between like a hex and a 9 speed, there's obviously advantages to having like a fairway versus a mid-range and how they react on the ground and like their like flight characteristics. But I think as far as like you don't bag 7 speeds, you bag 9 speeds, in my opinion, I think as long as you have the fairway slot figured out, it doesn't really matter what speed they are per se, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the jump from 5 to 9 is large. It's a big jump. And so there's times where this is very, I would say, course and area dependent is where this really shines. Is if you don't have a lot of courses where you're having to throw a 340 to 350 foot shot, then you're probably like okay to skip the 7 speed slot, because you can probably get if you're throwing 400, I don't know if that's like you've thrown 400 once or like you have 400 feet consistent power. I don't know. So if you're throwing 400 feet consistent power, you're probably getting your mids 300, 320. Well, then your 9 speeds are probably going close to 400. You're probably getting 370, 380 out of your 9 speeds. So that 30 feet gap is, do I come off of a 9 speed or do I go up on a 5 speed? Mm-hmm. If only there was something that was sitting right in the middle of that.
Right.
It's a 7 speed. So like, that's where I look at like the 7 speeds could be very, very powerful, very, very helpful. But if you don't have a lot of holes that do that, then yeah, I think it's completely unnecessary to have those. For me, I like the 7 speed slot because I like the 7 speed slot I can give a good rip, a good pop on something and know I'm going to get good distance out of it, but still feel like I have control. When I jump up to, I don't throw any like 9 speeds that are not like, I go from 7s to 10s because I go straight from my cigaras and my cicadas to trail. So for me, the reason, and the trail is going to live in this awkward realm, I'm sure, but not necessarily because the trail goes super far. But when I'm throwing distance drivers with confidence one day, those are going to go a certain distance. And so it's just going to be like a stepping stool of when I have more options. That sounds like it would clog the bag a little bit, but truly to me, it is a control thing. And really where I think it shines is the woods.
Yeah.
There's some like not having to disc down or power down on a 9 speed, knowing that when I power down, it's going to get a little more squirrely. Hitting a 7 speed with confidence in the woods really is the key for me.
And is it also like a hand feel thing? Like, or as a 7 speed, it's not comfortable in your hand, and that's why it's finicky with you. I will say maybe try a C-line FD because you can hit those hard. They'll flip up and go straight. Typically even for that arm speed, I maybe have a little turn, but yeah, I think that's good advice. I mean, I don't really have anything else to input other than I think just like throw what feels good to you. And if you're maybe just try some other stuff, and maybe 7 speed just not your thing, and that's okay.
Yeah. Jason with a Y asks, at what point do you decide a disc is close enough to fill a particular slot? I've been trying to find a neutral putter, and I have tried about a dozen molds that I won't bother listing, but none are that Goldilocks disc. One might fly how I want on flat, but not on Hyzer or Anheuser. At what point should I just stick with one that I don't necessarily love? So you're trying to find, at what point do you decide a disc is close enough to fill a particular slot? So one of the ways that I think you can look at this is that particular slot surrounded by stock discs, or is that particular slot surrounded by trusted, like seasoned discs?
Yeah.
Because most often, if it's surrounded by like seasoned discs, it's going to usually require a seasoned disc to also fill the slot in between.
Right.
Like I take a look at Brad's Envies, for instance, right? You have an Envy that pretty much at all times is what a stock Envy is expected to do.
Correct.
Then you have your super beat in Envy that creates really a huge amount of confidence, but also some worry spots in your bag because you're like, should it just be a stock proxy? Should I get right? Like you have that one. And then to my knowledge, sometimes you'll have an Envy in the middle of those, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll rock 3.
Yeah. I have 4 right now. But yeah, I always have like a more neutral one I can hit hard that is like more just straight, but still has a little fade. I have a clips one that is like a meat hook, but not unusable. And then I have like that really beat up one that will actually turn slightly.
Yeah. So if Brad lost his one that's in the middle of that, going out and just grabbing another Envy probably is not going to fill that particular slot because he's got stuff that's very particular on both sides of it.
Correct.
So that's where I think that there comes a point where if a disc, how much time, I would ask Jason, are you giving the disc to actually win the tryout? For instance, I shot a video this week on Quakes. I got a Sullivan tipped in Tour Series Quake, and it had one of the most comedic performances I've ever seen in one of my videos, Brad. I threw this thing for a whole round, basically, and it hit a tree every single time that I threw it.
Oh, my gosh.
Until like the 2 last holes. Like it was coming out of my hand cleaner than every other disc, but it would just somehow find a tree at some point during the flight every single time. And I was like, Sully, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? So I took it out again yesterday for another video and absolutely parked this hole that has been like this weird middle ground for my pig. Can't necessarily get there, but I always saw off a felon if I try to soft throw it. And I was like, oh, but here we go. It just took 2 rounds and suddenly I knew this was the right disc. So was it 1 round, Jason, that you went through it? Did you give it a couple months? What's the vibe? Because I think any disc that gets only like a week's worth of trial isn't getting a fair shot at actually earning a spot in your bag.
Yeah. And how much are you playing a week? If you're like me and not playing a ton right now, you got to give it more than a week. You've got to give like the PA 5, I gave like a month and a half. And I just went back to, again, to your point at the beginning, I have particular envies. I don't have like they're not just like a stock envy. And I was trying to fill that with something else and it just didn't work. I have to like keep on like the season in train with my envies versus like putting something in there new. I'd also say, I mean, if you're not experimenting with plastics too, make sure you're messing around with that because that might get you a little closer to where you are. Again, and everybody that's listening to this podcast knows like my overstable side of my mid ranges between like my hex that like is neutral-ish, it does turn a little bit, to my quake, I have a lot of hard time in between that because I'm kind of in your same spot, Jason. I'm like, do I season something in? I'm trying to find something now. This tempo, neutron tempo might be it, but we'll see. So don't give up. Give it some time, right, Robbie? And then really think about, are you asking too much of the disc as well? Meaning that are there seasoned discs around it, and you're trying to put a non-seasoned disc into a seasoned disc? And also, if you're wanting something to do something on flat, Hyzer and Anheuser, maybe you just need another disc. Maybe you're just asking too much out of one disc.
Yeah, like can the other discs on both sides help it?
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the struggle I had with the A5 was I kept looking for a disc that had reliable fade, but I wanted it to have Luna distance, and I just had to realize like that is a Goldilocks disc, like a true Goldilocks disc. And so, what of those two? What's the more important to me? And then pick a disc that does that. And I needed the reliable fade. I wanted to have more push than my normal overstable putt and approach discs, and that's why I landed on the A5. So I agree. Like Brad nailed it. I love that point of maybe multiple discs can help cover that slot. So even the disc on the other side of it, is that in jeopardy, and you can sort of make some adjustments along the way.
Right.
Xavier asks, Zach Toddle. We'll get you, Xavier. Zach Toddle asks, many amateurs putt with a Berg. Why don't we see pros putt with a Berg? Is it because making putts from deep circle 2 is difficult without the glide and is important for scoring on the Pro Tour? Would it be reasonable to putt with a Berg inside of your comfort range and have an alternative putter outside of that range, or best to learn the putt with a more traditional putter if you want to go pro?
First of all, who in the heck is putting with Bergs out there? What are you guys doing?
I
never
wish
seen
I could
this.
say that he's crazy for saying that.
Oh no,
Simply not true. I have a friend that I play with regularly who putts with a Berg.
Offline, can we talk about your friend choices, Robbie? I think we need to have a little intervention.
It's tough. It's tough.
No, see, in all seriousness, I mean, my brother-in-law, I love him, and he loves playing disc golf. But I mean, it's really kind of just a pet peeve of mine. He'll just oftentimes putt with drivers because he's just throwing them, and he'll just be like, "Oh, I'm 15 feet out," and he'll just putt with them, or putt with like his hex. It drives me insane. Like I love him. I love him like my own brother, and I don't ever say anything, but it makes me hurt. I don't. Do you think that people are putting with Bergs because of like the easy grip like that allows you to have? Like it like the disc is telling you how to grip it versus you trying to figure out how to grip, like what grip you need. Is that maybe that? Can I be optimistic?
I think hand feel is definitely a factor.
Let me grab a Berg off my shelf. Oh wait, I don't have one on my shelf. That's a lie. I think I do. It's a custom one. 1 second.
Yeah, probably from the World's Run would be my guess. Oh, there it is. Yeah,
Glad it's a lie. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It has to be that. I think a beginner would
wants
grab
to have
this.
a comfort feeling disc
because like it's telling
and it
my
feels
thumb.
great.
It tells my thumb where to go.
Yeah,
and I have a stable grip on this disc.
Yeah. I asked my Discord yesterday about discs when they think of Robbie C. What do they think of? And a couple people actually said the Berg, Brad, because they were like, because you're just so outspoken about your feelings about the Berg that whenever I see a Berg, I think about you and your feelings about it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's one way to take the question, but I like it. I really like. I think it's clever. Mm-hmm. And I've come out before and I've said that I think that what the Berg does really well. Other discs can do what the Berg does, but I here's why I think people could trust putting with the Berg. I think people putt with the Berg for two reasons. One, that hand comfort feel, very good. I know my friend who does it. That's exactly why he putts with the Berg, is because he wants that hand comfort feel. The second reason that I think people putt with the Berg, my guess would be here, Zach, is that they don't want long comebackers. So that glideless putt is actually big for them because they can run putts super aggressively and know that they're not going to have like a crazy long comebacker because it's not going to go anywhere. So while I think that it is more difficult to make putts from circle 2 with a Berg, you're rarely going to end up with long comebackers. So that's nice. I do think that this is another world that if you're putting with a Berg because of the fact that like you like the drop of it, I think you would be better served learning a different putt and trying to dial that in, because you're not having to work 3 times as hard to make circle 2 putts. And I do think that you nailed it on the tour. You have to make some circle 2 putts during your round or else you're just going to lose. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that if you wanted to go pro, you definitely want to learn a different putter. But I'm sure that there are people who are going to show up in the comments and tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong on why you should putt with a Berg. Once again, to me, I can only think that it is the comfort only goes so far
for the functionality of it as a putter. Therefore, it has to be like a fear factor of not wanting to have long comebackers.
That's not what it's designed to do.
Yeah. And I'm always a believer, if you're fearing the comebacker, you're already focusing on the wrong part of the putt. Mm-hmm. Like any thought that I'm giving a comebacker while I'm trying to make a putt is less mental effort and focus than I am using to focus on actually making the putt.
Right.
Like straight up. So, yeah. Xavier asked, how do you learn to trust your, this was one that I was like, ooh, this will be perfect for Brad. Xavier asked, how do you learn to trust your body after an injury? I'm recovering from ITBS as well as some sciatica, and it's terrifying to trust my plant foot again.
Pause Googling ITBS.
Yeah, I had no idea what ITBS is. But I think about, so I've had 2 injuries in disc golf. One was my elbow and one was my oblique. And both of them, one of them caused by forehand, one of them caused by my terrible backhand decision that affected my forehand. Both of them affected me wanting to go out and practice forehands because I was like, what if I re-injure it? What if I mess it up? And I think for me, it's all about a pitch clock, like it is, or a pitch count. It is coming in and saying, all right, I'm going to give it 5 throws. I'm going to give it 10 throws. And I'm going to slowly scale up. So you think about trusting your plant foot. Let's not try to slam in with a plant. Let's start with standstills because that's going to put some pressure on the plant foot anyways. Let's try some 1-steps. Let's try a walking run up and sort of ease your way back in. Because like you said, if you're nervous about the injury and re-injuring, you're going to be focused on that and nothing but that. And it's going to affect your game. If I slip one time while playing, I know that I just need to go to standstills the rest of the day because all I'm going to be focused on is slipping and my game is just going to plummet downhill.
Right. So I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, iliotibial band syndrome. It's a common overuse injury caused pain on the outside of the knee. So
okay.
Now we have
we have racing too hard or something.
Yeah, context. But okay. So I had a really hard time with this exact same problem, my right foot, plant foot, after I fractured my tibia. And I wore a brace for a really long time. And I found that I was like, I don't know, I was hyper focused on it, I guess is the best way to say. I think mentally you have to trust, like, did you do the proper rehabilitation? Did your physical therapist, doctor give you the all clear, right? Because I think it's all really mental. It was all mental for me anyway. Like I got the clear from everybody. It was good to go. Obviously, any sort of like activity at first required like a brace on my knee actually, to kind of hold everything together so I didn't like hyperextend or anything. But yeah, I did all that, and I found a lot of times like I would rely on my knee brace even like way after I needed to, and I was wearing it too much, and I was focused on it. It was actually holding back my throw, and finally I just had to like mentally be like, you are okay. The worst you're gonna do is just hurt your knee again, because it messed up my ligaments in my knee, and that's why I had to brace and everything. But I just had to finally be like, you are okay. At the end of the day, this is disc golf. I'm not out playing like full contact football, right? Or I'm not taking blows to the knee, and just slow down, take my time, just like make sure my footing before I walk up there, is the tee pad slippery? No, everything's good. Okay, trust my throw. And actually, you're gonna hurt your knee more if you like go and you stop when you plant and like direct all the energy to your knee versus like following through and doing your real throw. So good form equals less injuries in this scenario, in my opinion. I'm not a physical therapist nor am I a doctor, but I think you just mentally have to trust it. And if you don't, I think do standstills until you trust it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then,
because it's still good. The standstill's still going to put pressure on it. So it's not like you're just avoiding the issue entirely.
Yeah. And I think the pitch count was a very good, I guess, analogy, because I mean, at the end of the day, you can also be like, okay, well, I know that when I start feeling a little pain, a little tugging pain on that injury, then I'm gonna switch to forehands, and maybe I'll play that way. And I had to so this foot thing has been going on that I haven't, so I'm in the boot. It's been going on for months. I fractured my 2 metatarsals in my right foot, and now I have tendonitis in like basically every tendon in my foot up to my Achilles tendon. So but I did play disc golf this weekend, Robbie, because and I'm just looking at this time to be like, okay, I'm going to work on my forehand. I'm going to work on standstills, and I'm going to work on like that, like floaty 150 foot, like putter shot, like standstill thing. I'm just using it as an opportunity. I'm flipping the script. I'm getting mentally in a positive place. And just so use it as an opportunity. And I think the more positive context you put on it, the less like power you give the negative thoughts or like the fear of hurting your knee. And I think that's I know it's not disc golf related, but it's very valuable, I think, for a lot of things. So I think stop giving the power to the negative vibes, give the power to the positive stuff, and like look for the silver lining on it. And that will help you like mentally get past it, because that's what you're going to have to do. It's in your head. It's in your head, and you're going to be okay. I promise.
Yeah. All right. We got 2 more questions. One's a disc recommendation, and one is a just question. So John asks, when playing multiple rounds in consecutive days, i.e. a Friday practice into a 4-round tournament weekend.
Wow.
4-round tournament weekend is tough. I find myself losing my putt over time, at least partially due to exhaustion. Any recommended form adjustments or cues to compensate, or is it better conditioning, or is better conditioning the only good solution? So when playing a lot, especially in a small section of time, feels like he loses his putt over time. Mm-hmm. I feel like probably the best example you have to connect on this, Brad, is maybe like Hyzer Club weekend.
Yeah.
Where you go from not playing a lot of consecutive rounds to like, oh, I just played 5 rounds in 4 days.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt this problem before, where you felt like as you played more like golf back to back, your putt actually got worse?
I feel like the opposite. I feel like I need to play more golf to get my putt warmed up. I feel like I'm maybe the opposite of that. I feel that way with maybe like my driving, like off the tee. I definitely feel that fatigue there
comes in.
So I don't know. Can I just hypothesize for a second?
Fire away.
Is it less that you're losing your putt, or are you just losing focus overall? So I feel like that's probably more what I would say. I don't think it has anything to do with your putt. And I think putting is the low-hanging fruit because there's like so much weight on it. That's where you're gaining or losing strokes in your mind. And I think that when you're going to be like, oh, my putt's off, so I need to compensate, when it's really like mental focus is what's lacking. And you're just like, oh, this is the thing in front of me I think I need to fix. So I would say it's more like a game planning and planning according to your level of like tournament fatigue. Like maybe round 1, you're like, okay, well, my plan here, like on hole 1 is to birdie, but like, hole 3 game plan's changing. You're parring hole 3 now. And I think that takes less pressure off your putt also.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say that you, let's say you 2-putt 6 times around over those 5 rounds. 4-round tournament Friday, you 6-putt 5 times around. Realistically, you're making 120 putts or 120 putt attempts throughout the weekend. That's not a lot of putts. Like it's not a fatigue. Yeah. I don't necessarily think physical fatigue is probably doing that, because if you're a person who's doing practice rounds into a 4-round tournament weekend, you practice putt in the backyard. You practice putt on the warm-up green, things like that. And for most people, a practice putting session is I'm going to throw 100 putts. So this feels very in your wheelhouse. Brad, I think absolutely nailed it. I think that the mental fatigue of being that dialed in for that long can be what does it. The other thing is that there are small pieces of our form that often create some inconsistencies that if we do not focus them in, lead to more and more wear and tear. So something that I'm becoming a really big proponent of is when I do my putting stroke, I want to have a small pause at the bottom of my throw. And if I don't have that pause, I at least want to have a cadence down of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That my hand is used to the same pattern over and over again. Because if you wanna just realize how inconsistent people are at putting, find a person. You may be the most inconsistent putter in your cart, so this is going to be tough because people can do this to you. But next time you go play with the homies, watch who you consider to be this probably, Brad, this sounds so mean, but I'm just going to keep going. Watch who you consider to be the worst putter on the card besides you, if you are the worst putter on the card. There you go. We'll lump you in with it.
Yeah.
Watch their putting stroke. And do they look like they're doing the same putting stroke every time? Are there times where their hand's coming down significantly faster or slower than others? Because if my hand comes down too slow, then I feel like I'm off timing wise. So I end up speeding up. So then I send the hand too fast and I don't get the pop out of my fingers. And therefore it early releases essentially and goes low. Or I come down too fast and I pause because I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here yet. And then I rocket that thing over the top. Whereas if I have a cadence and I'm doing that. So I think Brad nailed it on the focus is the key. And finding a routine that I can sort of wrap a skeleton that I can wrap my putt around so that I can just focus on that routine. So for me, it's a cadence in my head every single putt. 1, 2, and boop. Literally what I say while I swing the putt every single time. So that if I'm off, I know I have to get back to that. And I think that's where you see the inconsistency is it is. Because once again, mathematically, if you two putt multiple times during the round, and that's saying that you never parked a single putt.
Right.
Like, we're talking 120 putts. That's not that many putts.
No.
So, yeah, that's where I would definitely say focusing in and creating like a skeleton or a routine that you can really wrap that thing around. So last question comes from Ben Butterworth, which I picked Ben Butterworth because I had a guy in my hometown of Decula, Georgia named Ben Butterworth. And I thought Butterworth is a very unique last name. How funny that there's another Ben Butterworth out there. So Ben, shout out to you. Both Bens. I don't think my Ben Butterworth listens to this podcast, but back in the day, we used to play a whole lot of Ultimate Frisbee watching Brody Smith videos. So what a time. Moved from Central Virginia to Idaho, plus 4,000 feet of elevation. Need some help finding a disc. I love throwing control drivers, Vulture Gang, but never found one that Hyzer flips to flat / turns well. 390 foot backhand, 360 foot forehand. Any suggestions?
First of all, what very well crafted question. I feel like I have all the information. It's like put in parentheses. It's just a very good, very well crafted question. So Ben Butterworth, shout out to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. You crushed it, man.
So,
because we really do have we can actually give a great recommendation here.
Yeah. So we're going to elevation, which means we're getting more overstable. Correct, Robbie?
Correct.
All right. So he likes a Vulture, which is a 10 speed, and he throws about 390 backhand, 360 forehand. So he throws a little farther than me. Not a little. He throws a bit farther than me, but loves a Vulture. But he wants something that Hyzer flips to flat and turns.
Yep.
Yikes. So
he said, yikes. Brad was right there with you, and then all of a sudden he was like, nope, no, I don't know.
Well, you know, what about a trail?
Okay, yeah. I think the trail could definitely be it if you never tried the trail.
Again, because we're wanting something that he's going to an area that causes his disc to be more overstable. So we got to find something less stable that's a 10 speed that Hyzer flips to flat and or turns. So we got to find something.
There's a disc that you used to throw.
The Gorgon.
Yep.
Yep.
I think the Gorgon could be perfect.
Yeah, that might actually be great.
Especially at elevation.
Yeah, I think that would actually be probably the best recommendation. Is it trail 11 speed or 10 speed, Robbie? Why am I blanking today?
it is by definition a 10 speed.
Feels
flies
11.
like an 11 speed.
It feels 11.
Yeah.
That's why Gorgon, I think Gorgon's a great recommendation. I'm trying to think if there's any Castoplast that's a 10 speed, but I think all that stuff's overstable at sea level.
I've got one that I'm going to throw in that isn't a 10 speed. I think it's a 9 speed. Mm-hmm. But I do think could actually fit this slot well, but I'm just making sure that I have the right one. Because I want to, if you have other thoughts, I got to find it. It's a Prodigy disc.
I also, I'm going to throw out a couple random, not random, but they have purpose, but I think a DD might be a good disc for you for that type of flight, because I think it's an 11.6 -3.2 if I'm correct. Very Thrasher like, but it was very easy for me to flip and turn at sea level. So I'm imagining adding the extra distance / power and then some overstability of elevation. That might be a good one for you. That could be a fun one, I think, maybe to try that. I also think if you find an ESP Scorch, also not a 10 speed.
Scorch is great choice.
I watch my youngest, or not my youngest anymore, but Eli, he can just throw a beautiful like Scorch, like flip up to turn shot. But it's an ESP Jawbreaker one that he got at Worlds. But I think an ESP Scorch might be great for you because you already like Discraft.
Yeah. So the disc I was going to recommend, I honestly don't know why more people don't throw it. Like 100% honest. It's so good. I can't remember why I got one. I know I got one from Foundation in a sub box, maybe the Shadowfax.
Oh yeah.
Or what I've gotten in a mystery box, like a Black Friday mystery box.
Yeah, one or the other. I can't remember. I think it's a sub box. I think we did it in the sub box.
Yeah. So Shadowfax, famously, Gandalf's horse, but Shadowfax, it's a 9 speed and it's like a 9.5 -2 1.5. That thing it was what I wanted the trail. Like it is before the trail existed. It's what I wanted out of a disc. And the only reason it got pushed out is because the trail does what it does just a little bit farther. But I think about the fact that if you're at elevation, I don't know what gyro does at elevation. And like if you have to give it even more because of the lack of glide that happens at elevation. So for that gyro effect to really hit, that would be my only worry on the trail, is that if you want Hyzer flip to flat, like Hyzer flip to turn, if you're not hitting the trail smooth every time, I think the Shadowfax is going to be an easier to throw trail. And at elevation, we need that extra.
Yeah. I think Avenger SS was another disc that we could recommend as well that I didn't think about. Yeah. Hey, I'm using the flight number tool on foundationdisc.com to look up.
Let's go.
Yeah. And even I don't know. I hesitate on the Jet. The Jet could be a good one, but I don't know. I don't feel like it's as understable, even for me, that it should be. So, yeah. I think there's some good recommendations. Ooh, Sapphire.
Yeah. Sapphire up there. I would worry. The Sapphire's going to have that easy turn for you, Ben. You just can't hammer it. Because if you're throwing 390 already, find a Maxway Sapphire. Those do exist. They were a trilogy challenge, I think. Maxway Sapphires. 175 class. So, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today's questions. I will tell you that we're going to start with, we've got 2 questions pulled aside already for next week. And those are, we've got Jimmy D and Tristan. Tristan, I thought was curious because this feels like it could have been Tristan Tanner asking this question.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, but it is about finding coaches.
Right.
And then Jimmy asked about turning discs over on release. So that's what we're starting with next week, as well as next week. I think we had a question come from Mike about like a very particular hole situation. So I wanna theory craft next week, Brad. So I think that's what we're gonna end up doing is doing like he has a very particular scenario for us to tackle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to dedicate some time to that scenario because I think that it's very theory-esque. So, but not only do we talk about Shadowfaxes and Gorgons and Avenger SSs, but those are some great discs that you can find some places. Brad, what's new in the warehouse?
All right. So this week we have quite a few things actually dropping. We have the Pivot drops this week from Prodigy, with all the NHL stamps just in time for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Looks like my Avs are in a bit of trouble. We'll see. This is Thursday.
Same for my Wild. Oh.
Yeah, but hey, they're hanging in, man. On my bracket, I wanted to put the Wild winning so bad because I love Fleury. I just want it for him so bad. But I think the Knights. I mean, they're holding on. They're holding on.
Yeah,
it's not the blowout that I expected, so go them. But yeah, whether
my Wolves took down Lafrade last night, so
there we go. So hey,
bye Lakers.
Yeah, basketball is a thing. Anyway,
sorry.
So
back to the NHL.
The only other sport I care about. But no, whether you're an Avs fan or Wild fan or you're a Capitals fan, whatever, we've got a select number of pivots. We picked local-ish teams or based on our sales of the other NHL discs. We pulled some there, so check them out. They're if you saw on In the Bag's Instagram, if you're not following, please give us a follow. I did a pivot only round with our buddy Cal. Shout out Cal. He's a hockey player here locally, but he's also a very good disc golfer. And then my sons Eli and Cohen, we did an 18-hole challenge with a pivot. It was a lot of fun. So check out. Very good disc. I think Cal said he's switching to the pivot as his putting putter. He's a PA3 guy. He's switching to the pivots. So he loved it. Eagles Crossing M4, Go Throw, Tour PA3, and F9 also released this week. In Innova Land, we have the Proto Glow Halo Star ABR3, the Evelina one, the Bradley Williams Baby Halo Destroyer. Also, a big deal, Climo Disc we're actually allowed to sell online now. So you can check out the full Climo Disc line online. So House of Discs, we have we talked about Westside, the Ring Warship, is it called Ring? What are they called? I'm blanking. The what?
Orbit?
Tournament Ring Bear, Tournament Ring Warship. We also have the Ella Hansen D-Line FD with a little smiley Ella thing at the bottom, and we have a restock of Diamonds, which we were out of, and then the Splatter Opto Splatter Fuses, which you all liked. So we got some more of those. We also have our shipment of Buzzsaws finally came in, our back order of those. So those will be going up this week. And our continued Discraft restock. We got a couple other really fun things that came in this week. I showed Robbie one of them before we started recording today. So be on the lookout for a little fun foundation thing that's coming out, as well as pre-orders. If you did pre-orders for the MVP drop, it drops next week. So we have a lot of stuff going on in the warehouse. As always, check in on recently restocked. Check in we talked about lessons and form. Robbie does private lessons. They're on Foundation's site. Make sure you check those out. You can schedule time with him and you can do a little coaching one-on-one. If you don't want the one-on-one coaching, you rather do it on your own time, we do have our Foundation lessons as well that you can go on. You can buy. You can subscribe monthly. We have new ones coming. We're getting ready to come out, or you can buy them per lesson. It's up to you. Robbie also teaches a lesson on there. You can go get his thoughts on approach. Right, that's what you did.
Yep, up shots. So, but yeah, whether you're getting lessons, you're buying discs, whatever you're doing. I hope you liked this episode, and as always, if it's good, keep it in the bag. We'll see you all next week.